Welcome to the final part of Megaman X2. We're going to be going on to the final X-Hunter stage to fight Agile. And this music will sound familiar for those of you that have played Mega Man X6. They do reuse this music in Mega Man X6 for Gates Laboratory. I am not looking forward to Mega Man X6, I can tell you that right now. But that's neither here nor there. That's 4 games from now. This stage by itself is actually not too bad, except with the exception of this part here. There we go. Normally I do a really bad job of grabbing that with which shows right here. You're supposed to be able to use the strike chain to grab the extra life as well as the large energy here, but I am having the hardest frickin' time in the world using it. And then I ended up pushing it further back, and it's just like, oh, it's not worth it. I have a grinding spot for sub-tanks anyway, not worth it. And then we have this platform here where if you jump on it, you change the direction. For those that may have remembered, Sire, you got a super weapon for collecting all the upgrades, all the heart tanks, all the sub tanks, all 4 armor parts. You got the Hadoken for doing that in the first game. Do you get anything special for getting all the upgrades in X2? And the answer to that is yes. And you actually find that upgrade in this particular level. We're getting closer. There we go. You're supposed to use the moving platform there to get up here, but it's actually a lot easier to just forego it and just climb up this way using the Crystal Hunter. But here, where the path splits, is where you would find the extra super upgrade. Climb up here and get this extra life. Make sure you get to the end of this section with full life, otherwise you're not going to find the secret Dr. Light capsule. Much like how you got the secret light capsule in Armored Armadillo stage, you have to get to a specific section of this stage with full health and all your upgrades in order for the capsule to appear. And at this point, I was just like, forget it. So here's where you're supposed to go to get the upgrade. And I just had to use up a sub-tank to get there, whatever. If you have to charge up the speed booster, use an air dash, and I failed that miserably. Don't worry, I just jump cut. So use an air dash, and then use the powered up speed burner to dash to the left. Slide down this wall until you find this hit wall here, and you will find the Dr. Light capsule, who decides to quote Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, I guess. Or Wayne's World, I think is what it's from. But anyway, if you jump in here, you will find the super upgrade, which is the Shoryuken. Now, unlike in Mega Man X1, when X used the Hadoken on the Super Nintendo version and set it, even in the Super Nintendo version, X does not shout Shoryuken when he uses the attack, unfortunately. But just like the Hadoken, in order to be able to use the Shoryuken, you have to have full HP, you have to have full life, otherwise it does not work. In order to use it, for those of you that have never played Street Fighter before, using the Shoryuken is you do forward, down, diagonal forward, and then Y. So forward, down, quarter circle, forward, Y. Or whatever the fire button is in the version that you're playing. This is Agile, and if you use the Shoryuken, it just one-shots him. It's like he was clearly designed to be used for the Shoryuken to use on him. And, as he said, he wants his master to avenge him. Gee, I wonder who his master is. If you do not use the Shoryuken, Agile is actually kind of hard. He'll make these platforms on each side of him, and then he'll drop them on you. Here I'm showing off sections that I couldn't show off before. Here in Bubble Crab stage, this is the best area to farm for energy for your sub-tanks. You need the powered-up Silk Shot in order to do it. But right there is the fastest way to fill up your sub-tanks, which is what I was trying to show off before, but I didn't have the Buster upgrade, so oh well. If you were fighting Agile the normal way, his weakness is the Magnet Mine. But now we have Boss Rush. That was a long boss rush. But, Legasp, Sigma is back. So, Sigma hired the X Hunters to spy on X and to rebuild Zero. And they pretty much already flat out spoiled that after the first video. So yeah, Sigma's back. But where is Sigma going to be? The X-Hunter castle kind of exploded. Well, apparently the final stage in the game is back in Magna Centipede stage. I don't know why, but... Although, when you do see the X-Hunters in the cutscenes, they are in Magna Centipede stage, so I guess their base is actually always been Magna Centipede stage. They just didn't do anything with it. So a lot of people seem to think that that X2 was rushed and they're just reusing Magna Centipede because they ran out of time. But I think it was I'm pretty sure it was done on purpose. As per usual, when I get to Sigma, I'm not going to use the Shoryuken to cheese him because that would be boring. I want to actually show off what the boss fight is, as intended. Now, speaking of things I'm showing off, I am not showing off the alternate fight, which does happen in this stage, by the way, if you fail to collect all of Zero's parts, right here. If you failed to collect Zero's parts, the real Zero would be here. Thankfully, I got all 3 parts, so now we have Black Zero here. So here would be where you would fight Zero, but since I saved Zero, boom. And now we got the best Zero theme in the franchise, seriously. It's so good, they even remixed it for Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I like all of Zero's themes for the most part, but I do think that X2's is probably his best. So apparently Zero was destined to follow the Mavericks at some point. This is the first point in the series where they start hinting at Zero's origins. Technically, we're not going to find out more about that until X4. They do very vaguely mention it in X3, but not enough to matter. Also, if you notice, Zero also now has his trademark Z-Saber as well as his shoulder pads now that he's been upgraded. And as usual, the two split up while Zero destroys the main computer and X goes after Sigma himself. Somehow, despite Sigma teleporting upwards, he is now below us. And I always love using the Shoryuken to jump down here because that pose is awesome looking. Also, considering I'm going to do my best to not use the Shoryuken while fighting Sigma this time. Also, it looks like the main computer's down here too, so I don't know what Zero's gonna do. If you do fight Zero, then he still comes back to his senses after you beat him, and he sends you over here. I was trying to use the Shoryuken, but I got hit. And apparently Sigma decided to trade in his Jedi license to become Wolverine. I guess he's a big fan, or Vega, one of the two. He's either a big X-Men fan or a big Street Fighter fan because he's got claws now. The claws look more like they're Vega's claws, so maybe he likes Vega. Maybe he's designed to look like Sagat, but he mains Vega. Awesome. He also has the electric spark from X1 as well. I'm not even joking, like even the powered up version of it is the electric spark's powered up variant of X1. His weakness is the Sonic Slicer if you failed to hit him with the Shoryuken like I did. The best way to hit him with the Shoryuken is when he's trying to dive on top of you after he teleports. But our second form, again, this game loves its wireframes, but this is Virus Sigma, I guess. Yeah, so Sigma... Compared to the final fight in X1, this Sigma is a joke. Because not only is he weak to the strike... he's weak to the strike chain, yeah, but he is going to keep spitting out enemies that will drop health for you. And you can tell how much damage you're doing to him because the color will keep changing every time you hit, the more you hit him. He starts out green, and then he goes dark purple, then orange, then red, and then when he gets to dark red, he's going to start teleporting around the room trying to possess you, making you take lots and lots of damage. Eventually he does stop teleporting and you get the chance to shoot him. There. And if he gets inside, you just keep shooting him in the eyes, and then he's down. You can also hit him with the X-Buster, but the strike chain does the most damage. And Sigma is destroyed for a second time. So there's your first hint on what Zero was supposed to be. We will learn more about that in X4. Yes, X4. They completely forego his backstory. They completely ignore Zero's backstory in X3 and wait till X4 to talk about it. So we'll have we still have a whole game to go before we learn more about Zero. So I guess you're gonna wonder, is there any major difference for not saving Zero? Well, aside from fighting Zero before you fight Sigma, no, the ending does not change. Aside from one very minor detail, but that's something that happens literally at the very, very end of the credits that don't even matter. Joined by his friend Zero, Megaman X gazes out over the sea. Well, at least he's not on a hilltop this time. Or he's not on a hill. He's not standing over a cliff this time. Sigma has once again been destroyed, but X wonders if the fighting will truly end. Spoiler alert, it won't. Sorry, X. Was Dr. Light's dream of a world in which Reploids and humans live together in peace merely a dream? The price of peace is often high, X thinks to himself. I mean, we don't ever actually see any humans. Who or what must be sacrificed for it to become reality? So, I don't see. Unless you're playing the remake, Maverick Hunter X, there is really no evidence of any humans existing in the Mega Man X universe. Outside of Dr. Kane, of course. The future holds the answers, or, well, we'll find out in X3. Except we kind of won't, because the plot kind of takes a back seat in X3, unfortunately. There is a major revelation in X3 that does kind of matter to the overall plot. Very, very minorly, but it's still there. But we'll find that out in X3. But this is X2, and what do I think of X2? Well, as I mentioned at the end of my commentary with Muigi01 on Mega Man X1, X2 is basically Mega Man X1 but better in every possible way. in all honesty. Like, all the upgrades you get are just better than the upgrades you get in X1, with I guess the minor exception being the Hadoken, if you just have personal preference. But I don't know, I think the stage designs in X2 are better. I think the boss patterns, while some of them suffer from Spark Mandrill syndrome of just repeated patterns, that only comes down to the fact that if you're using their weakness on them. Let's see. More of the gimmicks in this game I like a lot better. I like the updated ride armor that this game gave you. I like the jet bike that X is riding on here right now, actually. And I really, really like the armor upgrades. The double X-Buster charge shot is so much better than the X-Buster charge shot in X1. The air dash, that should have been a staple from the beginning, honestly. And you got the Giga attack, even if it's only useful for one boss in the entire game. But it's still there. I mean, X1 is still a really fine game on its own, and being that it was the first game in the series, despite kind of already having the plot basically figured out by X2, I can see why people would prefer X1 over X2. But I just think X2 is just better in every way. X3, when I get to that, And that's the only other difference. If you didn't save Zero, then Zero would be in black armor right now instead of red. That's about it. But I like X2. I think it's a better game overall than X1. Some of it feels a bit rushed, like having the final stage be Magna Centipede again, but other than that, it's a pretty solid game, and I found it really enjoyable. And I hope you guys found it enjoyable too. So thank you so much for watching my playthrough of Mega Man X2. I will be back with Mega Man X3. See you guys then.